Now, joining us to go through the headlines, what's making the headlines in many of the front pages this morning is Albie Amankona. Joining us from Young Voices UK, he's also co-founder of the Conservatives Against Racism for Equality. Good morning, Albie.
Good morning, Anna.
Now, let's take a look at what's making the front page of the Times this morning. Sex scandal revitalises rebel plot to topple PM. We've been talking about this at the moment, but it does seem that it's putting the Prime Minister in a very difficult situation.
Yes, absolutely, Anna. It is putting the Prime Minister in a very difficult situation. Obviously, we've had the allegations about Chris Pincher come out towards the end of last week, and now we're looking forward to this week to see how it could potentially impact the leadership woes which he has been facing now for quite some time. And apparently, it's revitalised the rebel plot to oust him.
On the face of it, do you think that the situation, these allegations, have been handled properly?
The allegations have been handled in a similar way to how the Prime Minister has handled a lot of these situations, where there's an initial attempt, the person who the allegations are made against resigns, and then there's an attempt to hold the line, and then that position seems to change within a couple of days or so, and everyone's left thinking that the situation could have been handled much better at the beginning, where the whip could have just simply been withdrawn as soon as allegations were made.
Looking at the front page of the Eye, poll blow to Johnson as new Pincher claims made. They've got an exclusive poll showing that the Prime Minister's approval rating is in the doldrums. What do you make of this?
I think this is more difficult news for Boris Johnson, but I think it's important to take into account that actually the Prime Minister's approval ratings has been quite poor for some time. The question will be, have the Chris Pincher allegations actually made his approval ratings any worse than they were before? And if we actually look at the overall polling for the entire United Kingdom electorate, I think the Conservatives are still at around 33% and Labour at 39%. So at the moment, at this point on Monday morning, still very early in the week, Anna, it doesn't seem to have dented the overall polling that much just yet.
Being a political commentator as you are, Albie, I mean, how do you feel about the possibility, if there were another by-election, potentially, if that by-election happened in Tamworth, how that might play out, though? I mean, if we're looking further ahead.
If we are looking further ahead to a potential by-election in Tamworth, which I do think is becoming more likely as the days pass on and more allegations come out, it would ultimately be a very difficult position for the party to be in. Tamworth, I think it's got about a 20,000 seat majority, I think smaller than Tiverton and Honiton, which the Conservatives lost to the Liberal Democrats just a couple of weeks ago now. So I think the Conservative Party would be very concerned if we were going to be looking at another by-election, especially under some pretty sorry circumstances.
OK, let's move on to some other stories this morning then. And there's one that you've picked out in the Daily Telegraph about Ukraine fatigue. Talk us through this.
Absolutely. So this is Yulia Tymoshenko, who's the former Ukrainian Prime Minister, and she seems to be concerned that there is Ukraine fatigue in European countries, and she believes that if there is a peace deal, which has been floated in the past by France and also by Germany, that would only encourage a further land grab from Putin in Ukraine. This also comes as we have seen Ukrainian forces withdraw from Lysychansk over the weekend. And I think it builds into further concerns that actually the war in Ukraine as of late has been going much better for the Russians than it has been going for the Ukrainians. And it's not a story that is picked up in the news and makes the front pages anymore.
I mean, it's very difficult, isn't it, when you're covering war and the ins and outs, the details of, what's happening on a daily basis when conflict is continuing to maintain people's attention to it. But are you really convinced that there is fatigue about what's going on in Ukraine and the ongoing Russian large-scale invasion?
I think overall, Anna, what really matters are the commitments that Western nations make to military aid in Ukraine. Obviously, we had the G7 meeting last week, and we're hearing reports that Finland and Sweden are looking to join NATO. And ultimately, what matters is that what our political leaders in the UK, in France, and Germany say is actually followed up with action and followed up with policy. So it shouldn't really matter what the media says, and we're certainly hearing a lot more stories of this potential Ukraine fatigue. It only really matters if our leaders start to get Ukraine fatigue, and Boris Johnson, to his credit, certainly does not have any signs of showing that.
I mean, this interview with Yulia Tymoshenko, she's saying, we must finish Putin. Appeasement would only lead us into the next war. And she's saying the only solution now was to finish him completely by military means, despite the rising death toll. I mean, it is quite a frightening prospect that the war in Ukraine could continue for quite some time.
It's a very frightening prospect. The war in Ukraine, I think, most likely will continue for a very long time. Indeed, the Ukrainian forces have been showing really brave resistance against this Russian aggressor. And I can't see an easy solution that could happen in the next couple of weeks or months. I think this is going to be a war of attrition that goes on for the rest of the year and perhaps the years to come. And let's not forget, Anna, this all began with the invasion of Crimea in 2014. So it has been going on for a long time already.
Great to talk to you this morning. Albie Amankona joining us from Young Voices UK. He's also the co-founder of Conservatives Against Racism for Equality, taking us through some of the stories that are making the front pages this morning.